Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/TNRL. Over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
Jesus got out here.
I thought I was a good Christian.
Jesus died on a cross. I go to church every Sunday. Jesus got out here. Then I read that says Jesus died on a cross for a rotten hooker.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday.
I thought I was a good Christian.
I go to church every Sunday. I'm a very religious person.
I thought I was a good Christian.
The very lies the serpent told to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden. The gospel of Jesus Christ spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ spreads confusion and promotes lies. The gospel of Jesus Christ spreads confusion.
Hey everybody, it is Monday, April 23rd, 2012. This Non-Religious Life. I'm your host, Ken. All the way across the country, we have Bob.
How's it going?
And Jason.
Hello, hello.
And we've got a show in store for you. A lot of science in this one.
Damn science.
You know, unfortunately, this has kind of been a slow news week.
Yeah, a little bit. I was busy this week. So I couldn't even get onto the news sites and really search. But it seemed like, I mean, none of my Google alerts really had anything much come up. I think we won. I think we won the war on religion.
Yeah. Today. We won a battle.
Yeah. So, Bob, you said you wanted to, before the show, you want to talk about intercessory prayer.
Yeah, well, I'd like to get into intercessory prayer, but we also have a comment to deal with.
Oh, we do have a comment. That's right.
Yes.
So, Jason, why don't you field this one? As you're probably the only person who knows the answer to this.
Kyla sent us gave us a comment on Zombie Popcorn's post of This Non-Religious Life, saying, "I love the show. Please tell me the title of the print behind the sofa, behind Bob. It's green with the tree branch. I want a copy of that print so bad." And this is the image that she is talking about. This sits behind Bob. There's not a title for it. It was done by a person whose name is tagged on the photo of C. Roberts. And the way that we came across this is my wife actually saw this painting in background of another photo online on Facebook that somebody posted, and she wrote them and said, "I want that," and they said they don't know where it's at, but they'll track it down, and they found it, and she bought it from them. So that's how we have it. So I can't give you a print, I can't give you a title, because that's all we know about it. But thanks for the comment.
But it's not a print.
No, that's the actual
oil on canvas.
Yeah, it's definitely oil on canvas, but she wants a print of it, so I don't know how you would get it. It's the original.
Can't.
So yeah. Sorry. Anyway.
All right.
On with the show.
So back to intercessory prayer. Bob, why don't you take us through an introduction of what that means?
Well, I was looking for things to talk about, and there was an article on the HuffPo about
you being hip.
No, I'm saying that ironically.
I'm just kidding.
There was an article on the HuffPo that it was Rabbi what's his name? Rabbi Shmuel Herzfeld, and the title of the article is "Prayer is Medicine for the Sick," and then he references a study done in '88 by Dr. Randolph Byrd that shows the power of intercessory prayer, and he's finding some scripture and stuff to go with it. But I don't know. I'm really kind of. I saw that headline as "Prayer is Medicine for the Sick," and I was like, that doesn't sound good at all. Like that's a. So first of all, intercessory prayer is the idea that people praying for you have a real effect on the outcome of your health, whatever is going on. And the Byrd study, I think it was a small study where they showed a positive outcome in like 56 of 300 or so patients, but when the study was analyzed, it when went through peer review and was looked at in an unbiased manner, they found that Byrd was doing the what do they call that, like the huntsman fallacy, where he's like shooting and then drawing the target around where the bullets hit, in that he was selecting people who were receptive to prayer, who had likely good outcomes. But I don't know, this whole idea of prayer as medicine for the sick, this is something that's going to have a body count.
Yeah.
I mean, people shouldn't forego the standard of care offered by their doctor or physicians. They should. I mean, fine, if you want to pray, great, but don't not go to your doctor.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen this happen in real life with people, of parents who believe they don't want to give medicine, or they put their child's faith or condition in the hands of Christ, and they've died because they didn't receive medical.
Yeah, there's that Oregon family that I think that their kids were taken away from them because one of them died, and they are a group of they're members of some religious denomination that forgoes modern medicine altogether. They rely strictly on prayer, and they had one child die, and then maybe another child died too, and so Oregon changed their laws to deal with this.
Yeah,
it like that. I think that couple is they're facing trials for maybe manslaughter, not murder, but it's some kind of they're being held responsible for the deaths of those children, their children.
Yeah, I think it was criminal negligence and second degree manslaughter. Yeah, and rightly so. I mean, if you're seeking absolutely no medical treatment for something that is treatable, and your child dies because of it, that's criminal negligence. It's funny, I just pulled up the abstract of an article from a medical journal on PubMed, published in 2006, that the conclusion was that this is done on, oh God, how many people? 3 groups, but it was intercessory prayer on heart patients, and conclusion: intercessory prayer itself had no effect on complication-free recovery from CABG, which is coronary artery bypass graft surgery. But certainly of receiving intercessory prayer was associated with higher incidence of complications. So if people knew they were being prayed for, they were statistically more likely to suffer from complications.
Well, yeah, I saw that study too, where they showed they did worse, and I guess they attributed it to some anxiety on the patient's part, like they felt that the prayers should be working, and it caused stress in them that caused them to do worse.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is people who knew they were being prayed for believed that there was a God that would save them and make their life better because they're their savior, and and nothing was improving, so they were just like, what the fuck, and it was challenging their thoughts, challenging their belief. Or
I think that's the hypothesis, because they divided in that study, they divided the group, and they had controls, and one of the controls is that one of the groups that was prayed for didn't know that they were being prayed for.
Yeah, it was a group of people who,
if I remember right, they were all cardiac patients. And so, we talk about like you did better, you did worse, but they had a rubric of like outcomes from this cardiac treatment, and based on how the patient did, on these criteria, they said that they were able to quantitatively say he got better, he got worse.
I'd like to know if the people who knew they were being prayed for, if they were faith believers, or if they were agnostic or atheist, or what their personal view of for for lack of a better phrase, of the spiritual realm or the afterlife or whatever.
I don't know. I think at first blush, without reading the study carefully again, I would guess that they were probably believers, and that it was this. I don't know. They were in some kind of cognitive dissonance about, I'm being prayed for. I should be getting better, but I'm not, and then they get worse. Because if it were me laying in a hospital bed, people are like, they're praying for you, Bob. I'm like, whatever. It's not going to help.
Well, that's the thing. Is like that's. I don't know where I'm going with this, but there's different levels of faith. If there's people, I mean, take for example the story you just talked about, the family who their child died because they put so much faith in that God would take care of their kid. The kid died. If you took that type of believer next shoulder to shoulder with, just your average American believer who just, I pray, I pray to help me get through the day or whatever. Their level of stress would be extremely different.
I don't know that that's wrong or true. I mean, I can only speculate, but I don't know. And also I don't know offhand like how many people were in the study and to what degree, patients got worse. That's not to say like all the patients who knew that they were being prayed for got worse. So yeah, I'm sure it was a spectrum response. But
it was 59% had complications.
Well, that's
Of
pretty
the people who knew they were being prayed for, as opposed to I think it was closer to 50 for the people who either weren't or were but didn't know it.
So you're saying like a 9% increase between the two?
About a 9% increase.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would if they didn't know that they were being prayed for, and that would kind of make sense. Out of any cohort, you would expect half to go one way and half to go the other, right? There would be that's kind of where you think the data should lie. But then the group that was being prayed for was skewed the other way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's when you're sick, three things happen: you get better, you get worse, you stay the same.
No, I demand a fourth option.
Yeah, I know, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's this whole. I'm really. So I had an uncle that was sick, and he was in the hospital recently, and I just every time there was like some kind of he's not a Facebook person, but his daughters are. My cousins are on Facebook, and every time there was a mention of him being ill and in the hospital, he's better now. I mean, he bounced back, but every time there was a mention of him being in the hospital, everybody was always like, "You're in my prayers. I'm saying a prayer for you. I'm in my prayers." Nobody said get better.
Well, maybe that's just the social awkwardness. What do you say? And if you're brought up religious,
better,
but if you're brought up religious, that is would be the ultimate. Not only do you get better, but I'm invoking a higher being to help you become better.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a magic trick.
Yes.
To make you get better. I don't know. I mean, it just seems like there's a lot of naked displays of faith going on.
Yeah.
And largely it's I'm gonna say a prayer to make people get better and sick people well. Do you see that, Ken?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems like it's slapping me in the face.
I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time calling you guys. I'm going to disconnect really quick. Jason, call me back
Okay.
in a second.
Oh, no. We're going to lose Ken.
I don't know. We've lost him a couple times during the show.
Get him back.
I'm working on it.
The person whom you're trying to reach is...
Hello?
Hello.
All right, much better. Sorry, what was the question, Bob?
Are you seeing the same sort of naked displays of faith that I'm seeing with, I'll say a prayer for you? It just seems like it just seems more prevalent than ever.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, social media is like that. You know, people have fewer inhibitions about what they say when it comes to social media. I noticed that years ago when I saw people just blatantly posting things. It was like, you would never say that in real life. Like, 10 years ago? No. Before, Facebook or MySpace or Friendster or whatever came before Friendster. It's almost like a barrier. Like, it's okay to sit behind your keyboard and say things. And it's sort of like a confidence boost. So it's okay to put all the crazy, professions of faith on Facebook where everyone can see it. Whereas I feel like if it was a more personal, less digital situation, a lot of people wouldn't.
Well, I don't know. I think people.
But I think that swings all directions, not just in a religious one. You have a lot of atheists who are coming out now because they can over, the internet.
Yeah, I think so. I'm actually very quiet on Facebook. I don't ever post anything on Facebook other than the crap that Jason posts for the show. That's my only Facebook presence.
It's not crap.
I meant stuff. Stuff. I don't know, and I just like. I had a bit of a fine tuning of thought the other day, and we're talking about like when you say like the war on religion, I don't feel like I'm conducting a war on religion. I think I'm being critical of it, and I'm not exactly opposed to religion per se, because I think people should be able to do what they want to do. However, this is where I land, is that religion has a lot to answer for, and this kind of bad advice and this kind of things that have a body count. This is the stuff that I think should be criticized and done away with.
Yeah, of course.
If the guy wants to say like, oh well, you should pray to get better. All right, great, but you should also say like, and go to your doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, what would people do if you went to the doctor and the doctor just said, "Well, sign this piece of paper, go home and pray, and you'll be better"?
No doctor would do that.
Yeah.
That doctor should have his license
you're saying,
taken away.
Like you're saying, religion has a lot to answer for. I got in a mood like that just recently, because the other night I watched Agora for the first time.
Oh yeah, that's a good movie.
It's a great movie. Not the most historically accurate, but just watching them tear down and burn the Library of Alexandria is like, oh my god, like, and just because of blind faith,
Yeah. Yeah, that was like, way to go, Christians. Good job.
Yeah, good job.
And that was very telling when I'm sorry?
I said the greatest repository of knowledge the world's ever seen. Good job.
I know. Got to burn that down. I know that was a very touching scene. Like towards the end when like terrible things are happening, and Hypatia is she's not really concerned with her own well-being. She's just trying to rescue every scrap of parchment that she can.
Yeah. Yeah, she was an interesting person. Historically speaking, she did a lot of work on mathematics and astronomy. Tried to work on the heliocentric model. Very interesting.
And what happened to her?
They definitely played down her death at the end. What's that?
I said, and what happened to her for her efforts?
Yeah, they definitely played down her death in that movie, where Davis essentially kills her before they stone her.
Yeah, she was stoned.
She wasn't stoned in real life.
What's the historical veracity there? How did she die?
She was dragged through the streets by an angry mob, brought to the church, and then flayed with sharp oyster shells.
Lovely.
Yeah, before being burned alive. Yeah.
Because she was a woman that had the gall to learn to read and do math and question the religious
They can't even
establishment.
do that today.
Yeah. Well, they didn't like her because she was close to like the prefect. And obviously, like she was called a pagan later on in life, but she was a Neoplatonist. She was probably an agnostic. Might have had some sort of like loose spiritual ideas, but
Well, you know, this is she was in the time of the Library of Alexandria. That's she was not exactly living in an agnostic world.
no. I mean, Christianity had just survived Julian the Apostate, so they were really getting sort of pissy about non-Christians.
Yeah, I watched that movie as well and thought, like, man, there yet again something else religion has to answer for.
Yeah. And bear in mind, people, there are people like that who still exist today.
Yeah.
Who would have the libraries burned?
Have you
know?
seen the maybe have we talked about this? Have you seen the oatmeal comic? Where it had guys in turbans and it said like militant Muslims.
Oh yeah.
And the Muslim says like, let's go bomb an embassy. And, okay then. And then they have guys with Bibles and it says militant Christians, and the guy says, let's go bomb an abortion clinic. Okay then. And militant atheist, let's go drink micro beers and talk about science.
Yeah. No, talk about outer space is what he said. Microbrews and talk about outer space. Okay then.
That's
Yeah.
You know, when you start talking about that, I'm sure that there's gonna have that Christian, not necessarily apologist, but that uninformed Christian viewpoint where they say like, oh well, Hitler was an atheist, or they'll say like, you know, Pol Pot was an atheist, or Stalin was an atheist. You know, they'll lay all of these atrocities at the feet of atheism.
Yeah.
When in fact,
the Hitler one gets me. I mean, at least Pol Pot and Stalin were atheists, but Hitler wasn't.
yeah, well, that again, as I said, it was misinformed. But they attribute those crimes that those people did those horrible things because they were atheists, which isn't true at all. They did those horrible things and they were an atheist.
They did those horrible things for power because they could.
They
you know?
Yeah, they act in horrible ways that have nothing to do with theology or atheism or religion at all.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy.
That one is it's a pain in my ass because I get a, unlike you, I have a rather big presence online. I'm trying like hell. There's one other Kenneth Montville out there, and I'm trying like hell to push him out of Google when you Google the name. He comes up as the number 3 thing currently when you Google him. He's a realtor from Maryland. I have nothing against the guy, but
call him up and ask him to change his name.
What's that?
Call him up and ask him to change his name.
Change your damn name.
You know what? Like, have you ever talked with him?
No.
No. So he's probably on Google on the other end of Google going, who the fuck is this Kenneth Montville guy? If you said he's a realtor, you know, he's trying to sell houses and make a living.
And everybody's like, I'm not buying a house from you. You're a damn atheist.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad for him, but I'm just trying to push him out of the run-ins. Yeah. He's the 3rd thing that comes up, but everything else up there is me.
So in thinking about...
Oh, no. Next to last thing, too.
In thinking about, you know, what I think religion has to answer for, I find I can't think of anything, or I'm not aware of anything where I can say, like, atheism has a lot to answer for.
No, well, that's the thing. Atheism isn't a positive worldview. You know, it's not. It has no positive claims. It's not a worldview. It'd be like trying to lay blame at the feet of not believing in unicorns, or, you know, my lack of belief in Bigfoot has caused me to
Right.
become a genocidal maniac.
Well, since it was a worldview, since it's not a worldview, and most atheists throughout the history would not be active. I mean, it's not until modern times that atheists, have the ability to speak out and be public. So any negative action that would happen that what's called devastation, death, or whatever, done by an atheist was probably not known because they were probably not vocal about being an atheist.
Yeah.
So, but again, it goes back to the same thing. Is like, just because you're an atheist and you do bad things, or just because you're a Christian and you do bad things, doesn't paint the picture that all atheists or all Christians or all whatever are bad people. I mean, it's like the argument. It's like the argument that people say, well, Hitler. Even if Hitler was an atheist, and we know that he wasn't, but even if he was, it doesn't change the fact that Hitler was a bad person. It does. His motives wasn't that, and to say that is, I don't know, it's just not right.
Yeah. I mean, you could pick any number of people who are absolutely terrible people and be like, oh, that person's a Christian, but then you have to. It's sort of you're drawing false connections. Was the person's actions motivated by their belief or disbelief in something? And that's what matters. Yeah. So when you say, I don't know.
I mean, look at the abortion bombings.
Who was it that ordered the Crusades?
Right.
Those are motivated by Christian values. So
right.
therefore,
that's religiously motivated.
That is religious, and therefore you can paint that sect as being bad, as being negative, and saying it's representative of their beliefs. And that you could say yes. I can't even think of the Army of God that's stationed here in Chesapeake, that they advocate and promote bombing abortion clinics. They are driven by Christ, and
right.
So you could say that, but just picking a bad person and they happen to be whatever doesn't paint the picture of that ideology.
Well, I like to think that most people who are Christians. I mean, I want to think the best of people. I like to think that most people who are Christians and believers, I'm sure they're lovely people. And, that army of Christ, yes, they're religiously motivated, but they don't represent the vast majority of Christians out there. And so I wouldn't think of them in that regard. However, religion is still on trial for their actions. This army of Christ. When abortion clinics are bombed and people are killed in someone else's belief that is religiously motivated, religion is on trial then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's held.
Well, anytime you take an ideology, and base your violent acts on that ideology, then yes, then that belief should be put on trial and should be questioned. And I think a majority of people do that, and that's why there's not a huge movement of people killing each other, at least here in the United States, because of political beliefs. Well, at least not yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely weighing the action to see what the motivation was. So, as I said, Pope Urban II, he's responsible for the deaths of, how many Turks because he called a crusade. That was a religiously motivated action.
Well, what do you think about what's in the news right now? Is it Bain Incorporated, the company that Mitt Romney founded, fired, I think it's 3 or 4 executive employees because they did not, they were not members of the Mormon Church, and now those executives are suing the company because they were fired for not belonging to the church. How do you think that falls into this?
Well, I think they have every right to sue, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the question is, will they win?
Yeah.
I mean, if they can prove that they were fired because of lack of religious beliefs, then yeah, they should win.
Maybe. Well, so here's the thing: is they weren't fired for lack of religious belief. that's not necessarily the case.
No,
They were
true.
fired for the wrong
religious. True.
belief.
I
And
misspoke on that.
That's I think that's worse.
Yeah.
You know, like if I were running a synagogue or I was a rabbi or a priest in a parish, like, okay, fine. I'm sure the hiring practices there are contingent upon religious belief, but to say that somebody has the wrong religious belief, especially in a secular corporation.
Yeah. Or what it's supposed to be. I mean, so where does it draw the line? It is a private company, and they have. Do you think since they are a private company, they have a right to only hire Mormons?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, there's this company I used to work for, they were an equal opportunity employer, and their policy was that they hired without regard to race, religion, veteran status. They wouldn't disqualify you from the job for anything like that. But I think in order to, if they by upholding that standard, I think that they enjoy some benefit from that. I think that there's some I think that there's some incentive to be an equal opportunity employer. Like, I think they enjoy some tax breaks. I'm sure that there's some privileged status that you get with being an equal opportunity employer. You know, if I were, I mean,
I don't know what the benefits are, but I'm sure there's something to it.
Right. I don't know. That's an interesting question, because certainly if I'm the if the archdiocese of a parish needs a new priest and I interview for the job, I'm probably not going to get hired, and I shouldn't expect to, because I don't have that religious belief.
Well, that's different, because that's
a qualification. That's a bona fide qualification.
Yeah.
That's not the same as hiring someone
as
to be a computer, technician, and not hiring them because they're not, Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
Well, some organizations though, and probably PETA is one of them. For instance, one of they have jobs where they say, especially we talked about this, like the people who are on the grassroots campaigns, that part of their job requirement is to maintain that vegan lifestyle.
Well, that's because
considered a bona fide qualification.
Because that is part of that is. I mean, going back to the church thing, and this can be applied to the PETA thing. It's not in the best interest of the church or PETA to have somebody out there saying that this is the lifestyle, whether it's faith or non-faith. This is the lifestyle that we should put forth, and the messenger not embrace that. It defeats the whole purpose. It'd be like, you don't want an atheist being a rabbi. You don't want an atheist being, part of any leader of any religious group, whether you would prefer it or not. Realistically, it doesn't work. But being an executive of a company, we can even break it down to something like this. So, like, say if Zombie Popcorn hired staff, it would make no difference if I hired somebody to work the cameras during the shows, if they were religious or not. Even if we're doing this show, because their ability does not rely on if they believe or not. Their ability relies on their skill and knowledge of how to work the software.
Yeah.
Being vegan at PETA, or being a rabbi, not only is your skill required, but your passion and what drives you is required.
No, that's an interesting point. And I really do. I see your point, and I agree with you in that. You're right, Ken. It's a qualification, and so when does the qualification? Where does that line get drawn in the sand? I don't know.
Well, the qualification has to be relevant to the position. That's the thing. Like we were talking about PETA, and there are people in the AV department, or I don't know now, but when I was there, there are people in, say, AV or IT who weren't vegan. They might have just been vegetarian or something. It's not a qualification to be vegan if you're just going to help them fix computers.
Yeah. No, I think, Jason, you make an interesting point when you said, like, if we hired a person to work the cameras during our show called This Non-Religious Life, and we're interviewing a guy to operate the cameras and we're looking at his qualification, I don't think the question would ever cross my mind about, like, well, are you an atheist or not, or how Christian are you, or how much do you believe? That would I don't think that would be a question that I would even ask, because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's actually because if it's not a bona fide qualification, and if we're not expressly a religious organization, which I guess would make the religion a qualification, it's illegal to ask.
Well, I mean, it's illegal to ask if it's not relevant. I could ask in an interview process saying, look, I do a show that is, that we record a show that is called This Non-Religious Life. It talks about issues. If you are religious, if you are a Christian, you may be offended by it. You may want to challenge it. I guess I wouldn't come straight out and ask. I would, if it was an issue, I would probably say, would this topic make you uncomfortable, and would you be able to work around this environment?
That's a fair question, and it's not valuing them on your quality. But so here I'm thinking of a darker side of it. How many times have people been on job interviews and, like, oh, well, here's this job interview, question, qualification. Oh, what church do you go to?
I've never heard anybody say that, but I'm sure it happens. I mean, there are employers right now asking for Facebook passwords. I mean, so I'm sure the crazy shit of not being hired because of.
I took I had a job at one point where they had everybody take like, it wasn't Myers-Briggs, but it was some other personality type test, and then they made value judgments about you based on how you scored on this personality test. Yeah. And I always felt a little funny about that, because one, they're crap, and two, I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
That was a little shady.
I applied for a job at the Christian Coalition once.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd that go?
Really?
It was funny because it was when I was in Texas. There was an ad, and it said, "Are you an animal advocate? Are you willing to fight for animal rights? Call this number." And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" So I called it, and they said, "Come down." And I was like, "All right." So, and they didn't mention that they were the Christian Coalition until I got down there, and I was sitting in there, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, "This looks like a church." But I mean, it was a office building, but the inside just had that smell and feel of a church. And then they took me into the interview, and they're like, "We're the Christian Coalition, and this is what we do." And they gave me a tour of their whole building, showed me their telemarketing section and everything. And
what did any of that have to do with AR?
None of it. I asked them, and they go, "We don't know where that was," because I didn't have the paper with me, so I couldn't show it to them. And I said, "Why would you do that?" It's like, we didn't do that. And I'm like, I would not have called if I knew this was the Christian Coalition.
I think you're tricking me.
But it's
fine.
I kind of wanted the job just so I could find out what they were saying.
I've seen pictures of you when you lived in Texas. I don't think they would have hired you.
Look at him. He's clearly one of them punk rock kids.
I think we need to take a short break and thank our sponsors for sponsoring the show, Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/TNRL. And what book are we picking this week for people to check out that they can get for free with their free 30-day trial at audibletrial.com/TNRL?
Bob?
That book is Hitch 22, the memoir of Christopher Hitchens. And if you've never read Christopher Hitchens or never listened to Christopher Hitchens, because now you get to listen to him, this is, again, one of those books that's read by the author, which is kind of interesting because now we don't have Christopher Hitchens anymore. He died. And so he's reading his own memoir, speaking to us from beyond the grave.
Beyond the grave.
So does that make the work a little bit more powerful when you hear it? Does it?
I don't know, and that would be interesting to find out. I think I might download that one just to hear him talk, because one, he's an elegant speaker, and an even better writer. And I've read I've read stuff by him, not this book in particular, but he's phenomenal, and I think it would be even better to hear him talk.
Yeah.
Because I've seen lots of his debates and stuff on YouTube, and he's
phenomenal. Yeah, that's I've never read any of his books, but I used to love watching him just debate because he's so eloquent, and he's got a very snarky sense of humor. You know, in his debates, he would always like bring up the level of sharp wit.
Yeah.
Rapier wit.
Definitely a rapier wit. And a really interesting life if you know his life story.
So yeah, definitely go check it out.
That's
you can get a free 30-day trial, and you can get a free audiobook. You can get this free audiobook, or any other free audible book that you want to check out. And all you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/TNRL. That's the initials for this non-religious life. Audibletrial.com TNRL.
Woohoo!
Woo!
all
So
right.
so this is the stuff I think about during the week. Did you see the? I don't know if I sent you a text about it. We were watching the episodes of Unsolved Mysteries at the video store, and they were doing one. It was about first it was about Elvis, and then it was about Brandon Lee and Bruce Lee and some family curse. Should they have died? Blah blah blah. And Unsolved Mystery is a show all about credulity. I mean, it's really like the worst kind of credulous journalism out there, and they anomaly hunt and do all sorts of spurious things. And this lady that I was waiting on, she sort of scoffed at this show. She was like, "Oh, people will believe any conspiracy theory out there. There's just she was like laughing at this albeit credulous show." But she was wearing a St. Christopher medallion and a cross.
Yeah, I remember you texted me about that, and I thought it was pretty funny. You're wearing magic medallions, but you're scoffing at the idea of a family curse.
I mean, literally, she's wearing an amulet of protection +1, and scoffing at someone else's crazy conspiracy theory.
This is not natural ones. You can't throw those.
Yeah, well,
references.
it's what it was.
Medallion of St. Christopher +1 reduces random encounters by
Right.
3%. Yeah. It's funny. I really like St. Christopher because his name is what he did. It's like, let's name him Christopher. Someday he will actually carry Christ. Oh, look, he did. Let's make him a saint. Because that's what Christopher means.
I saw your reply about that, and I didn't get it. It was totally lost on me. So Christopher means to carry Christ?
Yeah. And it's broken up. Christopher is I'm trying to see if he had a name before that, but I don't think he did. Yeah, Christopher means Christ bearer in Greek.
Oh, well, that was prophetic.
Yeah. He carried baby Jesus across a river.
Awesome.
He also used to be depicted as a dog-headed man. I actually have a picture of a painting of him with a dog's head.
I've seen that too. What does that mean?
I don't know.
Oh, all right.
I honestly have no clue.
This was your chance to drop a little knowledge, Ken.
Damn.
Hey, I wish I could. Weird stuff. There's I just pulled up a picture here. Him with the head of a dog. It used to be pretty common in like early Christianity. I know one of the oldest pieces of Christian graffiti is it's a sort of like a little more than a stick drawing of Jesus on the cross, but he has a donkey's head.
I wonder why they would do that.
Jesus has the head of a donkey.
They call him a jackass?
I don't know.
You know what? Speaking of graffiti, there is a meme that's been going around for a while, and it's a picture of a man's arm that has a tattoo of scripture.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
And underneath it was Leviticus 16:8 or whatever it is.
It's 1928.
19, yeah. And Ken left a comment on somebody because somebody's like, "Oh yeah, like it says tattoo." Well, tattoos in there, and Ken's like, "Well, yes, it does." And he went off. And so you want to tell that story real quick? I think it's funny.
Yeah, I posted it. It's the guy has Leviticus 18:22, which is a man shall not lie with a male as he does with a woman. It is an abomination. It's the argument that evangelicals use to say that homosexuality is wrong. But it's one of those demotivational posters, and it says Leviticus 19:28. Do not cut your bodies for the dead, and do not mark your skin with tattoos. I am the Lord. And my buddy Matt, he's like, I seriously doubt it says tattoos in the Bible. Just saying, but yeah. And dropped a little knowledge. The Hebrew is ka, which does literally translate to tattoos. As verified by my buddy David Pearl, who is Jewish and has a copy of the Pentateuch in Hebrew with an English translation, and it's from 1960, and it translates as tattoos as well.
See, I'm looking at another picture in the Leviticus 19:28 is translated as you shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead, nor print any marks upon you. I mean, same thing.
Yeah. Imprint any marks upon you, or put any marks upon you. Ka'aka is one of those words in English that for a long time didn't have a direct translation. So 1611, the King James Version, they didn't know what the fuck a tattoo was because they didn't do tattoos in England at that time. So they sort of went with the Greek, which talks about writing marks on you or printing marks on you. But we know that tattooing was actually fairly common in ancient Canaan around the time that this would have been written. So, which would have been actually the post-exilic era, probably sometime around the end of the 5th or about the 5th century BCE. It's pretty common.
I'm just thinking of the guy that has the tattoo, thou shalt not lie with a male as one lies with a woman, it is an abomination on his arm. That guy is an asshole. And a moron too.
He probably got that in prison too.
It's cherry picking, of course. It's someone who, is obviously,
Gay.
prejudiced in a certain way, and they want to show their faith, but they don't really know anything about their own faith. Otherwise, they know that tattooing's a big no-no. Even Jews are sort of ambiguous on what 18:22 means in Leviticus, but none of them are ambiguous about 19:28. You actually can't get buried in a Jewish cemetery if you have tattoos.
So that one they're clear on.
Yeah.
So, speaking of knowledge of your faith in the Bible and all that such, there is a new atheist book that's going to be the Bible of all atheists, and Ken wrote it. Well, not necessarily. It's not going to be the Bible. But Ken's book is out.
Yeah, it's up on Amazon. You can pick it up there. It'll be available in Barnes & Noble shortly. It's called the Pentateuch, Source Critical Version of the 5 Books of Moses. It took me about a year to write it. I'm excited. It's been a crazy year of writing and reading and editing and formatting and reformatting and re-editing and reformatting, sort of ad nauseum. So I'm glad it's done. It took me a year's worth of time, 8 covers, 3 proof copies, a lot of late nights. So
Getting drunk.
And I've already hopped straight into my second book.
Awesome. And keep your eye on the website because we are doing a contest. We're going to be giving away a free copy of the book. Contest will start fairly soon.
We will.
Can I win it?
No.
You have to enter.
It'll save me from buying it.
But no, it's not that. I mean, I was impressed with the price. It's only $25.
Yeah, it's only $25. That's actually what I did. For people who haven't paid attention when I was talking about it before or missed it, it's a color-coded version of the Pentateuch that divides up the text into various sources, be it the Yahwist or the Elohist. I define what those are in the introduction. It has about 250 footnotes that I added myself, and then 4 indices that get into sort of background information so you can understand that. It's the King James version, and in order to keep the price down, I went with grayscale rather than color. I really wanted to do it in full color, but it would have just been way too expensive. It would have been like $65, $75 a book.
Well,
I didn't want to charge that much.
It's color coded, but it's not in full color. You're saying
it's grayscale. So, the Yahwist and Elohist are the 2 oldest sources. They're in black. So, one's black and one's black underline.
Okay. Gotcha.
Then the Deuteronomist is broken down into dark gray with underline and non-underline as primary and secondary Deuteronomist. And then the priestly and the redacting final redactions are done in a light gray and a light gray underline. So
awesome.
Yeah. Took a lot of time. Especially once I realized I couldn't do it in full color and had to go through and recolor code the entire thing.
It's a learning process.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I'm very excited that you got your first book out.
Yeah, I'm stoked.
And if you just go to Amazon, you can type both the title of the book or Ken's name and find it. And if you can't find it there, by the time you watch and listen to this, there will be a banner link and contest up on the site. So you can just go to zombiepopcorn.com and click on all that.
Yep. Awesome.
So we're getting close to wrapping up. If we have no other stories, you want to take us out?
Yeah. So if you have any questions, comments, outbursts, you can always give us a phone call if that's your thing, 757-337-2195. You can email us at nonreligious@zombie-popcorn.com. You can like us on Facebook, facebook.com/thisnonreligiouslife. Put us in your circles on Google+. You can download all of our episodes on iTunes. They're all there. Leave feedback, all that stuff. If you're not into downloading, you just want to listen to us, on your phone or your tablet or even in your car, if some cars have it. BMWs and some Fords, right?
Yep, all the new Fords.
Stitcher Radio, where you just put it on, easy to find. We're right at the top of the list in the atheism section. Yeah. So the no syncing or anything required. You can always just go to the website, check it out. You can see our show and then all of the other shows. Sign up for the newsletter. Jason writes it every week. It's just a list of all the shows, any upcoming promotions that we're doing, such as my book giveaway. And don't forget to check out audible.com, the audibletrial.com/TNRL. Sign up for the free trial, get a free book. It helps us grow the show. If that's it.
That is it.
Right?
That's
cool.
it.
All right.
That's it.
So much to remember. So.
If you forget it all, just head over to zombiepopcorn.com. It is all there. You can get everything you want, plus more.
Yep. Okay. Well, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.